Hello and welcome to the Two Man Booth, your weekly scheduled podcast on the crazy world of professional wrestling. With me, Jonathan.
And me, Adam. And we will start this week as we always do with the news. And the first thing we need to talk about is unfortunately a death in wrestling. And it's the death of All Japan wrestler Atsushi Aoki. I know you have a lot of thoughts on him. He passed away after a motorcycle accident. And this is obviously really sad news, but Jonathan's going to take you through a little bit about Aoki.
Yeah, so Aoki was one of the most underrated wrestlers in Japan. He'd been good for years and years and years, but just never really got the big break that everyone was expecting him to get. He originally was trained by Pro Wrestling Noah, and he was trained by Jun Akiyama, so he was only ever going to be good. And he was pretty good straight away as a trainee, and developed his charisma and developed his look a little bit more, and got to the point where it was clear we should have been moving up the card, but because Noah weren't bringing in new trainees and things like that, there just simply weren't opponents for Aoki to beat, so he never progressed up the card in the way that he should have. And obviously then Pro Wrestling Noah had what happened to it, and it declined in popularity, and Aoki went to All Japan along with Akiyama and his group and did very well there. But then, All Japan had the split for the second time, where, half of All Japan went with Keiji Muto to go and form the disgustingly awful company that is Wrestle One. And Aoki has always put on great matches. He's like the perfect technical wrestler.
What was really sad about this, and obviously it was a sad story anyway, was I watched the guy just a few days ago. I was catching up on my All Japan and I saw him beat Iwamoto for the junior title. He was actually junior champion when he passed away.
He was the current champion.
It was a really, really good match. So, it's just he was, what was he, 41?
41.
Yeah. And he was still putting on really, really good matches. So, really tragic event.
Yeah, he was always really capable, and he was just silky smooth in the ring. I remember when he did Best of the Super Juniors, I believe, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was 2009. He got the semi-finals, and I believe he faced, I think it was the year that Kanemoto won against Devitt in the final, and I'm pretty sure Kanemoto defeated Aoki. Either way, he got the semi-finals at Korakuen Hall, and he was absolutely fantastic in that tournament, and just an unbelievable wrestler, and a massive, massive part of me starting to watch Japanese wrestling as well. So I was super, super sad to see that he passed away, and very, very much rest in peace, Atsushi Aoki.
And with that, we must move on to something completely moronic, which was an incident that occurred at the Ring of Honor show in Oregon last Sunday. Now, as anybody who's been listening to this podcast from the start will know, I am one of the biggest Ring of Honor fans you will find.
Yeah, it's your company, isn't it?
Been a massive fan of the company since 2004, and I really, although I've fallen away from the company a little bit, I still have a lot of time for the company, and I always will want it to succeed. But there was an incident that took place on Sunday evening where there was a fan in the front row who was sort of, shall we say, berating the heels in the Allure trio. And there was some stuff said, which I'm not going to repeat on air because it's not broadcastable. And there was supposedly a response from the trio, which included Mandy Leon spitting at the gentleman in question. And he was then, after a little while, led backstage by security, where he was, I'm going to use the word accosted by Bully Ray, at least in his version of events. And he was basically told to go back to his seat and enjoy the rest of the show. But he did say he felt very intimidated. Now, the wrestlers involved, sort of Bully Ray, Velvet Sky, Angelina Love, have all come out and said that things occurred in a slightly different way. But nobody's denied Mandy Leon spitting on the guy. Nobody's sort of given any kind of reason for why he was invited backstage and intimidated. Randy Orton's come out on Twitter and given Bully Ray applause, and if that doesn't give you a signal that this was not a good situation, the fact that Randy Orton thinks it was a good idea should give you a clue, because that man's moral record is not exactly strong.
No.
So a really sad incident. Obviously, we don't know the full facts, and we probably never will, because the fan could have acted like more of a douche than he's letting on. But the response seems to have been disproportionate, regardless of what he said, unless he's grabbed one of the girls or something, or like said something totally out of line. There's no real excuse for what they've done, and him being led by, kick him out the building, fine. I wouldn't have a problem with that. If they come and said, look, the way you're acting is not appropriate, we're removing you from the building, end of story, fine. But taking him backstage to bully Rick and basically intimidate him, that sounds like something you'd find in like the 1980s.
Yeah, I agree. Like, this is one of those things where, you know, WWE in a way sometimes they get it right a lot of the time. Like, if this happened at Raw, the first thing that would have happened would security would have come and that man would have been escorted out of the arena, and that would have been it.
And that's the professional way to deal with this situation.
As much as we sometimes rag on them for their product being awful at the moment, which it is, like when it comes to public relations and those kind of things, they don't make a show of things like that. If someone's going to be escorted from the arena, they're just escorted from the arena, and that's it.
Yeah, they would not be led backstage to talk to the boyfriend of one of the talent that was involved.
It's
like,
just massively unprofessional, and at a point where ROH is trying to solidify itself as the number 3, because AEW...
I think that's long gone now. To be honest, like, if you look at the attendances for recent ROH shows, they've been pretty chronic. I think losing the Elite has really hurt the promotion a lot.
Yeah.
And but I think actually we should do a final segment on this at some point where we talk about the decline of ROH and where it's gone wrong.
Yeah,
so we'll
that'd be a good idea,
going
actually.
Forward. But yeah, this incident was just totally out of order.
Yeah, I agree. And we haven't seen any fan cam footage or anything like that, but from what we've seen, I think it'll be one of those where it'll be more of a middle ground of the stories that we've heard.
Usually what you hear is you get one side of the story, you get another side of the story, and the truth is somewhere in between, yeah.
Either way, it's not great, and response for ROH has not been good.
No, they have announced that they're doing an internal investigation, but we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, that's we're going to do our own investigation into it.
So with that, we will move on, and Sting has been announced for StarCast 3.
Oh, I'd missed this. Cool.
Yeah. So that's a kind of cool addition. So he will be at the All Out weekend. I believe he's the first person that's been announced for it, but don't quote me on that. But a really good get for StarCast, because obviously there's been 2 of them now, so you're now running out of first timers. But I don't think Sting's done either of the first 2.
Not that I remember.
So him being there will definitely be a cool addition.
Absolutely. Sting, like everyone loves Sting.
And we've discussed this before, but Eli Drake is officially now a free agent after his contract with Impact has expired. Impact had announced that they had severed their relationship with Drake back in April after he went public with his refusal to participate in an intergender match with Tessa Blanchard, but they just let his contract run down, and he's now left the company. So it'll be interesting to see what Drake does going forward.
Yeah, I wonder whether like NXT would have a look at him. I'm not quite sure.
He's been in the system before.
Yeah, so I do wonder whether they'd take a look at him. I mean, whether, regards what happened to him, like, that was obviously his opinion. That's his judgment call. Like, Tessa Blanchard's one of the best workers in American wrestling.
I'm not defending him, because I don't think, if he had a problem with it, he should have went to the office and said, I have a problem with this, I don't feel comfortable doing it, I don't want to do it. It was more the public way he made it known.
I agree.
But he did say Tessa was one of, if not the best women's wrestler in the world. So it's not like he was sort of taking a shot at her or anything. I think he's just not into the intergender thing, which is absolutely fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Agreed.
I just think the way he went about it was kind of wrong.
Yeah, agreed.
So PW Insider reported that the AOP are set to return to action this month.
They've been gone. That's awful. I've just realised they've been gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I really liked AOP in NXT. I thought they were great. How sad is that I didn't know they were gone?
Yeah. One of them's been injured, and I can't remember which
but
one. I think it was Aiken. But
we were saying this before we came on the air. Like, I'd forgotten. Like, I've not been realising that the tag champs have not been on Raw for a few weeks. Like, they're treating people so badly. I'm not noticing that they're not there.
Probably because it makes them better in your mind.
Absence makes the heart grow much fonder.
Yeah. And the last piece of news we've got is a sad piece of news in a way. House of Hardcore ran a show at the National Fairgrounds on Saturday, which is notable because it will be the final show ever held there. Sadly, it will soon be demolished, so we thought we'd take this chance to say goodbye to a piece of real significance in sort of wrestling history.
Yeah, I think this is a sad moment for a lot of wrestling fans because, like, the Asylum and the association with TNA as well has been massive throughout the last, nearly 20 years now. Can't believe it's been nearly 20 years, but yeah. And obviously, like, it was great when TNA went back, Impact Wrestling went back earlier in the year as well. And I didn't realise House of Hardcore was still going.
Yeah, they're not massively relevant, but they are.
Are still going. But yeah, it's a sad moment, and hopefully it got a good turnout.
And with that, we will move on to our review of NXT TakeOver 25. So there was a really cool video package at the start of the show that highlighted the history of previous takeovers. We got a shot at AEW as Mauro asked Nigel how it felt to be part of his 14th takeover, and he responded by saying, "Time and time again, the black and gold brand prove they are the true alternative in sports entertainment." And I was like, well, that's actually true, because AEW is pro wrestling.
That's the first dig, isn't it?
Yeah. And then we opened with Matt Riddle versus Roderick Strong. This was fun.
Oh, this was brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah, so they worked some mat stuff early before it broke out on the floor. Riddle used the steps to hit a flying forearm. They end up fighting on the apron, and Roddy hits the backbreaker on the apron. He takes control, working over Riddle's chest and back. Riddle manages to get a cradle, but Roddy kicks out and hits an Olympic slam for 2. Riddle counters and hits a fisherman suplex. He follows with some strikes and then an exploder before the brought on and PK connect for 2. Roddy fights back, but Riddle catches him with a brought to sleep and a German for 2. They work up top, and Strong hits a beautiful superplex for 2. They trade strikes, and Riddle goes for a powerbomb, but his back gives out. Roddy hits that special 7th gear that he has, that very few others have, and hits a litany of strikes, followed by the inverted Olympic slam for a near fall, as the crowd goes absolutely mental. Roddy tries for the stronghold, but Riddle fights out, hits a rain trigger, a powerbomb, and a V-trigger for a very nice near fall. Mauro actually called one of the moves the V-trigger as well, which was kind of interesting. Riddle goes for the floating bro, but Strong gets the knees up. He follows with a jumping knee strike and the Gibson driver for a lovely near fall, and Roddy transitions straight into the stronghold as the fans lose their mind. He transitions into a line tamer, but Riddle kicks free. Roddy tries to punch down onto Riddle, but Riddle grabs the arm and goes for the knockout elbows and the bro mission. Roddy keeps fighting, so Riddle keeps on with the elbows and bro mission attempts, but eventually picks him up and hits a cradle tombstone slam he's calling the Bro Derek for the win. This was a phenomenal match. I said this on our Twitter account when I was live tweeting the show, but loads of people were praising Riddle after the match for his performance, and rightfully so. But man, Roderick Strong is so good. He's just that dude. He is so underrated as a performer. It's absolutely crazy.
He really is. He's one of the best, just purely in-ring workers of the last 15 years. Like, genuinely is.
Totally agree.
Like, you could argue he's in the top 10. You really could in the last 15 years.
It's that, like I said in the recap, it's that 7th gear he has where he just all of a sudden goes 100 miles an hour.
Change of pace. That change of pace he has.
He hits all kinds of strikes and stuff, and you're just like gripped, and all of a sudden you can feel the energy in the building, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And it was nuts. It was such a good way to open TakeOver.
It was an unbelievable match. I mean, like, Riddle was brilliant, but Strong was more than held his own. It was absolutely brilliant. One of the better opening matches I've seen in a very, very long time, at least on American. It's WWE TV for certain. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And it was the right finish. And the right guy won as well. So the booking was fantastic. And just a really great start to the TakeOver show. Really great start.
They told a great story as well.
They did.
So all good stuff there. We next had the ladder match for the NXT Tag Team Championships. Now, this is going to be difficult to recap. I took 0 notes when I was watching this live, so I had to go back, and in order to do the notes, I had to watch the replay and keep pausing it, and it took me nearly 50 minutes to get through this match.
Lots happened.
I was pausing so much. Yeah, there was lots happened. So the Street Profits had a really cool entrance, and there were loads of their sort of red plastic cups that had been given out to the audience. They were super over. This was, like I said, absolutely crazy, and it started with Wesley Blake hitting a suicide dive where he just dove straight into a ladder. Like, the Undisputed Era had a ladder in the hands, and Wesley Blake just dove headfirst into said ladder. Mm-hmm. It was just ridiculous.
It was a bold move.
Yeah. Everyone was on the outside, and Angelo Dawkins hit a crossbody from the top rope on everyone. Street Profits looked to climb, but Undisputed Era came back in, took them out, and started to climb themselves, only for Wesley Blake to push the ladder over in a super dangerous spot, as O'Reilly fell directly on the side of the ladder that he'd just fallen off. Forgotten Sons then went for the Terry Funk spot, but instead of spinning, used the ladder as a battering ram. They took everyone out, but Lorcan and Birch ducked and hit German suplexes on the Forgotten Sons as the ladder went flying through the air and landed on O'Reilly again. Street Profits took control and took everyone out, culminating with a double flapjack on Steve Cutler onto a ladder. The Street Profits set up for the Young Bucks draping Swanton spot, but Undisputed Era took them out as O'Reilly hit a missile dropkick on Dawkins, but landed on Cutler and, you guessed it, the ladder again. Fish hit an assisted wheelbarrow German on Ford onto the ladder. The Undisputed Era worked a nice series of spots where O'Reilly would climb and Fish would play defense, but when it wasn't working, they swapped roles, which seemed to work better for a while, until Blake powerbombed O'Reilly into the ladder. And when Fish fell, he just landed directly onto O'Reilly as Mauro proclaimed, "They killed Kyle," which wasn't entirely inaccurate at this point in the match because the dude had just been murdered repeatedly for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, his back was not in great shape.
His back, his front, his head, his legs, his feet. I'm pretty sure his little toe was probably hurting at this point.
Yeah, we have been told that Kyle O'Reilly is now officially out of intensive care.
The Undisputed Era tried to stop the Forgotten Sons, but both end up being taken out by Cutler and Blake. The Forgotten Sons both climb, but Birch and Dawkins pull them off into electric chair positions, and their respective partners help them hit a Doomsday European and Doomsday Blockbuster to take out the Sons. O'Reilly is somehow alive and starts to climb, but Jackson Ryker comes down and powerbombs Kyle into the ladder. I did like how, unlike Ali and Mandy from Money in the Bank, Kyle actually saw Ryker and hastened his climb. He started to climb quicker because he was like, oh my god, there's this fresh dude who's not actually involved in the match and he's coming down to kill me. Yeah. I will climb faster. Not like Ali and Mandy.
I will just stand here.
I'll just stand here until you come. Or Mandy, where she actually climbed down the ladder and ran out of the ring to attack Carmella. Smart.
Logic's really important in a wrestling match, though.
Yeah. So Ryker takes out literally everyone, including Lorcan, who takes a crazy-looking back body drop onto the ladder. Eventually, O'Reilly and Fish attack Ryker, and everyone else joins in as the crowd goes nuts. They all pick up a ladder and keep slamming it into Ryker before they all turn on each other again. Montez hits a crazy tope con hello onto Ryker, who doesn't catch him even a little bit. Lorcan does the same, and Ryker gets in the right position for him, but then just drops him anyway. Lorcan and Birch take out the Undisputed Era, and then the Street Profits and finally the Forgotten Sons, but when they climb, Undisputed Era pull them down. They set up another ladder next to the original one, all four men climb. They brawl up top, and the Forgotten Sons come in and push both ladders over as Fish takes an awful looking spill to the floor. They then push one of the ladders out of the ring in a really dangerous manner, and it nearly lands on O'Reilly on the outside, and Nigel legitimately sounded annoyed by that on commentary. Blake climbs the ladder while Cutler holds it, but Angelo Dawkins spears Cutler, taking him out. Ford springboards in and lands halfway up the ladder in a really cool show of athleticism, punches Blake off and retrieves the titles as the crowd, once again, loses their minds. This was an absolutely mental match. It was awesome, but also probably a bit too dangerous for me to enjoy it fully, because there was bits of the match where I was watching going, Jesus, please don't die, please don't die, please don't die. But it was really, really good, and I also thought the Ryker part was unnecessary and actually took away from the match a little bit. But the Street Profits celebrated in the crowd post-match, and well done to them because they are so over right now. NXT went with the hot hand, as we always say wrestling companies should do. They absolutely ran with the Street Profits, and right result probably at the end of the day, and a really good match.
Very much in agreement. The main thing for me is I'm very much on the same wavelength as you. Like, I thought it was great, but it was a little bit too dangerous, and it was difficult to watch at times. But I can give so much credit for the workers, because they went in there and they put their bodies absolutely on the line.
Say that again.
For our entertainment, and there is the element of that. It was very difficult to forget how dangerous the stuff that they were doing was. But if you take that out of it, it was a fantastic match. And I was really surprised that Street Profits won. I was very surprised that they went with them. Not because I didn't think that they deserved it. It was more because I thought they would go with the logical route of giving it to the heels first in the Forgotten Sons and then having Street Profits beat them. But either way, they were so over. And I know we've said before how the Street Profits are not my thing. They're not my cup of tea as a wrestling fan. Either way, I don't care. They're over. They're popular. NXT should be running with them, and I look forward to seeing how their title reign goes, because the more I do see them, particularly in the ring, the more I like them. So, great work.
The sky's the ceiling for Montez Ford. He's got charisma coming out of every pore in his body, and he's uber athletic. And I think having him with Dawkins for a while is good tag team, but I can see him being a super singles guy going forward.
Very possibly, but either way, I was very impressed, and it was another great match.
So up next, we had the North American Championship match as Velveteen Dream defended against Tyler Breeze. Breeze controlled things early, but was eventually cut off going for a suicide dive, and Dream followed with a lion salt for 2. They battle on the floor, and Breeze sends Dream's knee into the ring post. They fight in the ring, and Breeze takes advantage of Dream's damaged knee to lock on a half crab, but Dream makes the ropes. They fight on the outside, and Dream takes control before grabbing Breeze's phone and taking a selfie of him, Breeze's lifeless body, and the title. He waits too long, though, and eats a super kick. When they get back in, though, Tyler runs straight into the Dream Valley Driver for 2. Dream goes for the Dream DT, but Tyler hits the supermodel kick for 2. Breeze then goes for the Unprettier, but it is counted into the Dream DT for a near fall. Breeze goes for a tombstone, but they do the take a hunter spot where they keep flipping over so the other person looks like they're about to hit it. Breeze eventually just shoves him off, but Dream goes up top and fakes Breeze out, who goes for some kind of kick on midair. Dream then goes for the roll through Dream Valley Driver, but hits an Unprettier instead for 2. Dream goes for the Purple Rainmaker, but Tyler gets the knees up. He hits Cheeky Nando's and the Unprettier, but it only gets 2. Dream gets a small package for 2, but Breeze immediately hits the beauty shot after kicking out, but Dream rolls to the floor. Tyler can't get Dream back in to break the count, so Breeze stops the ref from counting. Dream tries to hit Breeze with the belt, but Breeze grabs the belt and gives it to the ref. When he turns back around, Dream hits the Dream Valley Driver and the Purple Rainmaker to retain. It was interesting booking to end a match that was a really good reintroduction to the brand for Tyler Breeze. But it was kind of interesting how the finish to the match.
And Dream was very clearly a heel.
Yeah.
Which he hasn't been lately.
Dream is
Dream's Dream.
Yeah. He kind of is his own thing. And it wouldn't surprise me if at the tapings he's a total Uber babyface, because he was still super over in this match.
Dream is like, he's probably my favourite guy in NXT. Like, I love Velveteen Dream. He's so good.
But after the match, Dream mocks Breeze by taking a selfie. But Breeze responds by asking for a selfie with Dream, which Dream obliges for, and then bails straight after. I didn't like this. Why is Breeze so buddy-buddy with the guy that just literally just screwed him?
It was confusing.
Either way, though, I liked the match a lot. I just thought the post-match was stupid.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I thought the match was great, and it was great for me to see Tyler Breeze show the world how good he is, has always been, and still is. He's been wasted on the main roster for some reason, because Vince just can't see talent anymore in 2019. Like, Tyler Breeze has always been talented. We've always seen it. You and I have always said that he should have been given the title in NXT way back when. And I very much look forward to seeing what he does. You know, supposedly he was the one that asked to go back to NXT, because people asked him, you know, like, how come you've gone back? And Breeze said on Twitter, I asked, please send me back.
Do you blame him?
Yeah, I don't, but I wouldn't blame 95% of the main roster for asking to go back to NXT. It's by far the better product, by far the better booking, and, you know, like Dean Ambrose said, they don't have to run around all the time trying to stop themselves looking stupid. And this match was great. It really was. It was a great reintroduction, and it was Velveteen Dream being Velveteen Dream as he always is, delivering in big matches. That's all Dream does, if you noticed. Every big match, Velveteen Dream delivers, and it's why I really think within a year Dream should be champ.
I still think he's got a lot of work to do, Dream. I think he's really good, but I think he's got a lot of work to do. But he's young and he's got time to put the work in.
The whole package, the charisma is like, it's 10 out of 10.
It's just because when I see him work with other people outside of, like, because if you look at the history of people he's faced on Takeover, your Alistair Blacks,
Riddle,
your Johnny Garganos, your Matt Riddles, your Tyler Breezes, they're all phenomenal workers. He's not had to go out there and have a really good match
where
with
he's
somebody
carried
who's average or somebody who's below average. And
fair point.
I just think I've seen him in some matches on NXT where he's had to lead the match and he's not been particularly great in it.
But
so
I think his character work more than makes up for that.
Oh, no, without doubt. And to be honest, I think he will get to the point where he'll be good enough, because he has got a lot of the fundamentals down and his psychology's pretty good
as well.
And you can just see certain things clicking in every match, and he's better every time I see him. The match might not be better, but his work within the match is better every time I see him. So yeah, good stuff.
I think he should be champ within a year in NXT. If not been on the main roster, God rest his soul.
So we had a hype video next for Damian Priest, aka Punishment Martinez, and then we had the NXT Women's Championship match as Shayna Baszler defended against Io Shirai. Io took control of things early, but when she went up top, Shayna cut her off and started working over the arm. She used a Kimura, but when she went for the Dakota Kai stomp, she missed. Io fought back and hit a gorgeous German, but she couldn't hold the bridge because of her bad arm. Io hits the strikes, and then the 8-1-3, and then a springboard missile dropkick for 2. Io locks on a crossface, but Baszler fights out. She goes for a hanging Kimura, but Io escapes and dropkicks Shayna at the floor. She follows up with the stunning top rope moonsault to the outside. Io brings her back in and goes up top, but Marina and Jessamine arrive. Candice comes out too, though, and attacks them with some vicious kendo stick shots and a crossbody from the steps. Shayna small packages Io for 2 and then goes after the arm before going for the Karafuda clutch, but Io fights out and hits a variant of the shorté. Io goes for the moonsault, but Shayna moves. She locks on the clutch, but Io rolls back in order to pin Shayna's shoulders to the mat. Shayna relinquishes the hold in order to kick out at 2. Io hits a kick and then the La Magistral cradle with the prawn hold bridge, which I've never seen before, and Zack Sabre would have been proud of. But Shayna kicks out and then immediately locks on the clutch. Io fights for an age, but eventually taps out as we get a surprise retention for Shayna. After the match, Io destroys Shayna with a kendo stick and then grabs a chair, holds it over her own chest and hits a moonsault onto Shayna whilst holding the chair. The post-match was cool, but I still think Io should have gone over here. It was a good match. It's arguably Shayna's best ever match, but I just think it was time for Io to win.
Yeah, and I really don't see where everyone goes from here. I
think we get Io and Shayna again, and Io wins this time.
But... And did Io at the end not come across as a little bit heelish?
I didn't mind it.
Or like a frustrated babyface.
It was more like aggression finally coming out because Io and Kairi and a lot of the female Japanese performers suffer from the same thing, but are very pigeonholed because they're happy-go-lucky, as you say, babyfaces, and that's kind of what they get pigeonholed into. And it was nice to see a different side of Io.
Whereas like Asuka has always had that side.
Yeah, but Io was partially screwed in this match because Jessamine and Marina did try and come down. You know, Shayna ended up winning clean, but it would be the type of thing, and you know, when we refer to the dirty clean pinfall in Japan, like the standard booking of a dirty clean win, this was that, or at least an element of that. So Io getting a bit more aggressive, worked afterwards, and I wonder if we'll get some kind of step match because NXT is pretty
low on steps.
But when it uses them, it's always for a reason, and this feels like this now has a reason, whether we have an Extreme Rules match or something at the next pay-per-view, whatever they want to do. I think
Singapore Kane on a pole match.
Well, I wouldn't put it on a pole, but you know,
Vince Russo would.
Of course, Vince Russo would. It's Vince Russo.
Yeah,
Vince Russo put Judy Bagwell on a pole.
But good match, like genuinely good match, and you're right.
Totally agree.
Probably Shayna's best match, but I love Shayna. Like you know, I do. She's been main roster ready for ages now.
Yeah,
like if
really,
NXT,
do you want to wish the main roster on her?
I wouldn't wish it on my best friend. Or my worst enemy.
I was going to say, I would hope not.
No, but I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It's that bad.
Yeah. So we got an announcement that NXT UK Takeover Cardiff will take place on 31st of August.
What's going on that day?
Well, there's a New Japan show in London at the Copper Box.
It's convenient, right?
Yeah, and then later in the day we've got All Out, so that's going to be a busy day of wrestling.
That's going to be an interesting podcast.
It is, yeah. We're going to recap all that.
Ugh.
And then it was time for our main event. Adam Cole
versus
NXT champion Johnny Gargano. They worked back and forth early with both teasing big moves. Gargano hits a Hurricane Run at the floor and follows with the apron cannonball. Gargano hits a double stomp on the arm of Cole and works over the arm. Gargano then locks on a Tequila Sunrise style variant of the Cloverleaf, but Cole fires back and they go up top. Cole slips out and super kicks the knee. And then he continues to work the leg for a while until Gargano gets a small package for 2. And then reverses a Panama Sunrise attempt with a sit-out powerbomb. Gargano follows with the diving Tornado Flatliner for 2. Gargano fakes out Cole with the Slingshot Spear before actually hitting it for 2. They work up top and Cole slips out after a battle. Gargano leaps backwards for possibly a cutter or something, but Cole turns it into a backstabber for 2. Cole hits an inverted Ushigoroshi for 2. Cole looks for the Panama Sunrise but eats a super kick. They spilt to the floor and both hit super kicks, and then Gargano hits the Slingshot DDT for 2. Cole bails to avoid a super kick and then hits the Brainbuster on the knee. He hits it in the ring for a nice near fall, and then he heads up top, but Gargano almost murders him with a nasty looking version of the Iconoclasm. I think it was deliberate, but it was still very dangerous. He locks on the Gargano escape, but Cole counters out and locks on the figure 4. Johnny reverses the pressure and Cole makes the ropes. He stomps away at the knee as the crowd chants Johnny knee brace. This was a very pro Adam Cole crowd.
Very.
Gargano hits a desperation DDT and looks to follow with a suicide dive, but eats a super kick to the face in midair. Cole then hits the Panama Sunrise off the apron to the floor. Back in, and Cole covers for 2. And then Cole misses the last shot, but locks on the Gargano escape. Gargano counters out, and he hits the last shot, covering for 2. The crowd is losing their collective minds at this point. They trade strikes before Cole hits successive bicycle kicks, but Gargano decapitates him with a lariat. They trade super kicks, and then Gargano hits a poison rana, but Cole rebounds up and into the last shot for a great near fall. Cole argues with the ref and grabs a chair, and then Gargano accidentally takes out the ref with the suicide dive, and then super kicks the chair into Cole's face. Back in, and he covers, but there is no ref. He goes out to get the ref, and then Cole waves down Undisputed Era, so Gargano grabs the chair. But it was all a trap, as Cole hits a rope-assisted pile driver when Gargano tries to get back in and covers for 2. Cole picks him up, but Gargano locks on the Gargano escape. Cole fights, crawls for the ropes, and Gargano rolls him back, but Cole attacks the knee and escapes. He super kicks the knee, but Gargano counters the Panama Sunrise by sitting down for a 2 count, but when he tries to go after Cole, his knee finally gives out, and Cole hits the Panama Sunrise, followed by the last shot for the win. This was awesome. It was probably a hair shy of being as good as their Mania weekend match, but still absolutely phenomenal. Post-match, the Undisputed Era celebrate as we go off the air. Fantastic.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
like, just
so good.
You're right, not quite as good as a 2 out of 3 falls match, but like that would be really
Splitting
difficult to
hairs,
match.
yeah.
And I was surprised that they had Cole go over. Like, I thought Gargano would remain as champ, but to be fair, like, Adam Cole has deserved to be NXT champion for quite some time now. He's been the best heel in NXT for quite a long time now, and it's just well deserved. And I'm so glad that someone that you and I have watched come all the way up from Ring of Honor and PWG,
from just being in a kind of a jobber tag team with Kyle O'Reilly,
Future Shock, is now NXT champion and deserves it and feels like a star. Like, every single time he comes out, the crowd pops huge. Every movement that he does, he gets over. He's just unbelievable, and I hope they never ever make it to the main roster, because I just know that Vince will just ruin the Undisputed Era. He won't get them because he doesn't get anybody anymore. They just need to stay there forever and be the NWO of NXT, as they have been since, like, they are the NWO of NXT, and they're just brilliant. And I loved it, and I'm so glad Cole's finally there.
It was a phenomenal match, and if you haven't seen Takeover, well, go out your way to watch the whole show, but specifically go out your way to watch that main event, because it was unbelievable.
And genuinely, like, when the first one came out, would you ever think that you'd be sitting there 25 later watching another Takeover?
Yeah.
Like, it's become like one of the biggest things in wrestling, Takeover, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
and
we look forward.
Good.
That, like, there's never been one. There's 25. There's never been one that sucked.
Yeah.
Never.
There's
been a few that have been lower, but
a couple of the early ones tended to have like average matches at the start, and then you got good matches towards the end. But for the last 15 at least, I'd say, it's been just great from top to bottom every time. Yeah.
And like, you and I love our Evolution. Like, we always think of it as one of the best shows we've seen.
Yeah, love our Evolution. It was a great show. And I guess the one thing we do need to talk about before we move on from NXT is there was a lot of comparisons after the show between Takeover and Double or Nothing. Now, I always do sort of match ratings just to keep, because I do best matches of the year list, so to keep an order of sort of how I've rated things over the years, so that I know where to put things in the list. Because if you're comparing a match from November to a match from January, you might not remember exactly what happened in the match in January, and it's difficult to know which match was better. So I always use it to keep track of things. And if you look at my star ratings for Takeover versus the ones for Double or Nothing, you would immediately think Takeover was the better show. That being said, there is more to a show than just the matches. And personally, I do think that Double or Nothing was the slightly better show. Both were great shows, but I personally think Double or Nothing was slightly better. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, it's like choosing between children, and they were both very different shows as well. Takeover was showing established stars that have been names in that brand for a long time. AEW, Double or Nothing, it was getting things off the ground. So it was two very different elements to two very different shows. If I had to watch one again, I'd watch Double or Nothing. Like, I think it was a better show.
I think both are going to have big rewatchability value, to be honest. But
I'm not saying the Takeover doesn't. All I'm saying is if you put a gun to my head and you said you've got to watch one of those shows, like I'd pick Double or Nothing, and I loved it. But that doesn't take anything away from Takeover. It's like choosing between children, or like 9.5 out of 10 and 9 out of 10. Like that's the equivalent, I think.
And I think as well, part of what made me enjoy Double or Nothing a little bit more was the fact that it really did feel like a momentous moment in wrestling history. Takeover, for better or worse, was just another great takeover.
It's what we've come to expect.
Yeah.
Whereas Double or Nothing, it was like,
you didn't know exactly what to expect, but
then it was like, whoa, we have got something here. Like our excitement as we were talking,
you
being
kept
like
saying to me throughout the show, feel like a watershed moment.
Feels like something, doesn't it? And we still feel that way about AEW. Like and I know we are still we're still not confident in any way that it's going to happen, but like my God, if they get Punk, like that's
huge.
That will put it over the top, it really will, and it'll be like, right, we've got competition here.
I think we might be there anyway.
Yeah.
And with that, we move from one fantastic wrestling show to another. So we are going to go through the Best of the Super Junior final day. So although we're not recapping them here, literally all of the tag matches on the show were very good and well worth a watch if you have the time. There was not a bad match up until the point on the show I'm going to talk about. So there'd just been a tag match that saw Villain Enterprises of Marty Scurll and Brody King take on Rocky Romero and Kazuchika Okada. And after the match, Okada's in the ring, and all of a sudden we get a Chris Jericho video. He says at Dominion, it's Rainmaker versus Painmaker, and he will beat Okada to win the title. And then Okada cut a promo saying that the title isn't a toy to be played with, and asks, what the hell is a Painmaker anyway?
I like this.
Yeah.
In Jericho,
good way of building up Dominion.
Jericho's promo felt very much like a Clockwork Orange version of Jay White's character. Like when I saw it, because like the Jericho's character and his look in New Japan always has elements, I think, of Clockwork Orange and Alex Delage in it, and it felt like a mix of that and Switchblade, and it was really cool, and I loved it, and I can't wait for this match.
So speaking of Switchblade, next up we had him versus Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Your friendly neighborhood knife pervert.
Yes. Commentary reminds us that they are tied at 2 victories apiece. Jay attacks Tana before the bell and takes him to the floor, with Gedo getting involved too. White goes after Tana's surgically repaired elbow. Jay works a great heat segment, and you can hear the sort of hush come over the crowd briefly after White hits a nasty looking hammerlock Saito suplex, which I've never really seen anybody hit a hammerlock Saito suplex before.
No.
But it was a great move. Tanahashi fights back, but when he tries to Irish whip White, his arm gives out, but when Jay goes to attack him, Tana hits the dragon screw. He then runs wild on Jay for a while. They trade counters until Jay hits a snap flatliner. He follows up with a deadlift German and then a Death Valley driver for 2. Jay is selling the knee as well now, and then White hits a spinning Uranage for 2. He goes for the Kiwi Crusher, but Tana counters into Twist and Shout. He hits a second and goes for a third, but Jay fights it off. Tana goes for it again, but White transitions into the Fujiwara armbar. He then transitions into a version Zack Sabre would be proud of, which was kind of like a Rings of Saturn version of the armbar, but Tana somehow makes it to the ropes. There is then an incredible spot where, after fighting out of a sleeper suplex attempt, Tana goes for a dragon suplex, but his arm is hurt too much. Sorry, not a dragon suplex, a dragon screw. But his arm is hurt too much, so he uses his own leg to hit the dragon screw. Like, if you've not seen the match, I can't explain the move to you at all. It was just phenomenal psychology.
Yeah, Tana's awesome.
Yeah. Tana goes for a sling blade, but White reverses it and goes for the Blade Runner, but Tana then just floats over and hits sort of the second portion of the sling blade. He then hits the full version and gets a near fall. He goes up top for the high fly floor, but Gedo tries to fight him, but Tana knocks him down. But the distraction allows White to crotch Tana on the top rope. He pulls Tana down and goes for Blade Runner again, but Tana hits a straight jacket German instead for 2. Tana goes for the dragon suplex, but Gedo comes in and tries to attack him. Tana lays him out, but while the ref is checking on Gedo, Jay hits the low blow on Tana. Jay tries to follow up with a Blade Runner, but Tana hits a low blow of his own and then rolls Jay up for 2 as the referee returns. He hits a grounded dragon screw and goes for the cloverleaf, but Jay gets Tana's arm into a Kimura-like position and uses that to cradle him for the pinfall victory. Very, very, very good match. Possibly their best match together. It was close between this and I think I probably like the title match at New Beginning a little bit more, where White won the title, but very, very close. Both great matches, and this was thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah, and Jay White is really coming along as a worker. Like I used to.
He is very, very good.
I used to say, when he first came back as Switchblade in this character, I used to say like his character work was really good, his promo work was good, and his in-ring psychology was good. He just lacked the moves, which I know I don't like people who just do moves, but it was the variety of his move set was not good enough.
I think
now
the fact
he's got
that
that.
set him up as a counter guy as well means he doesn't have to be as reliant on doing so many moves, because a lot of his moves are just countering his opponent's moves.
Yeah.
And they've made him kind of like, I love Kevin Kelly always talks about it.
Yeah,
the best defensive wrestler in New Japan. I love that kind of gimmick that he's kind of got.
Yeah.
So, but a really good match, as you would expect out of these two.
Agreed.
And next up, we had the debut of Jon Moxley in New Japan Pro Wrestling as he faced Juice Robinson in a match for the United States Heavyweight Championship. Moxley's nickname is Death Rider, which I think is a pretty great nickname for him.
That's awesome.
The video package before this match was absolutely phenomenal, as you would expect. Moxley comes out through the crowd to a huge reaction. His ring jacket is awesome, and I kind of like the simplistic design of his black shorts. And
I just don't like the amateur.
Yeah,
I like the look as a whole. If there was one thing I'd change, I just don't like the amateur boots. I don't think it fits who Moxley is. Like I didn't mind when he was towards the latter part of his run in WWE as a heel. He was kind of wearing almost like trackies with like all black amateur boots.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was okay, because it's just like, I'm just a guy who's here for a fight. But if you're wearing wrestling gear, I think you wear proper wrestling boots like he used to. They don't have to be shiny or anything like that. Just decent enough looking wrestling boots. I think that would fit. That's the only change I would make. I actually like his look a lot more than I've liked it in WWE, where he just had jeans and a tank top. I think actually he looks much better, and I always preferred Moxley, like on the indies, where he would wear proper wrestling gear, because to me that's what a wrestler should be.
And Juice has had a haircut too. This had a really big fight feel, which is great for the third or fourth tier title in a promotion.
Yeah,
depending on whether you put this or the never openweight title above, the junior heavyweight title above it.
Yeah,
I think it's
agreed.
probably above the never title, but it's probably
IWGP, IC.
Yeah, and then either the junior title or the US title. Probably the junior title, but it's relatively close.
Yeah.
But either way, regardless of what it is, it's had a big fight feel, which for a title that's that far down the pecking order is pretty impressive.
Hey, when you build your promotion well, that's what happens. Vince, take note.
Moxley gets in Juice's face and tells him he's number one with both hands. They wildly brawl at the bell. Moxley clotheslines Juice over the top and hits a suicide dive that sends Juice into the crowd. They brawl in the crowd as Moxley talks trash to Red Shoes and attacks the young lion. He goes for a pile driver on the floor, but Juice hits the back body drop instead. Juice then climbs to the top of the entrance stand and hits a swan onto Moxley and some young lions, although he eats a lot of the floor too in what was not a nice looking spot. Juice beats down Moxley on the outside and goes for a cannonball, but Moxley moves and Juice eats the barricade. Moxley works over Juice's leg after a chop block and lays some closed fists in, which totally turns the crowd against him just like that. The blood is running pretty freely from Juice's eyebrow at this point. He fights back, but Moxley avoids the cannonball again, but this time Juice stops in time and hits a plancher instead. Juice hits the juice box, but in doing so hurts his own knee, and the one that Moxley had been working over. Juice goes up top, but Moxley pushes him off and he eats the apron on his way down to the floor. Moxley brings a table into play and then wallops Juice with a chair. He places Juice on the table and jumps off the apron onto Juice in sort of Cactus Jack style elbow drop spot. He then picks Juice up and suplexes him through the table. Moxley demands Red Shoes count him out, but Juice just makes it back in, and then Moxley just hits a sick looking X-Plex where he just threw Juice about 75 miles into the air. It was awesome.
Yeah.
That got two. He sent Juice back to the outside, and after a figure four on the ring post, he goes for a move from the top rope, but Juice throws the chair in his face. Juice fires up and again goes for the cannonball, but Moxley just decapitates him with a lariat. They trade strikes, but Juice just starts to absorb Moxley's and fires up. Juice goes for the left hand of God, but Moxley kicks him and goes for dirty deeds, but Juice pushes them both towards the ropes and both men spell the outside. Moxley gets another table out and leans it on the barricade. He goes for a lawn dart through the table, but Juice slips out, hits the left hand of God, and Moxley lies prone against the table, and Juice hits a huge cannonball onto Moxley and the table. But I am the table.
It will not break.
No. So Juice sets up the unbroken table and powerbombs Moxley through the table. It broke that time.
Yep.
Moxley hits the dragon screw and transitions straight into the cloverleaf. Never realised how much I wanted Mox versus Tanner until right now.
That would be awesome,
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
Juice literally bites his way out and hits the left hand of God. He goes for Pulp Friction, but Moxley goes for Dirty Deeds, but Juice rolls him up for a near fall. They exchange simultaneous lariats, and then Juice goes for the left hand of God, but Moxley kicks his knee out and hits the Dirty Deeds, but Juice kicks out at 2. Moxley hits a jumping variant of Dirty Deeds, and that gets the 3, as John Moxley wins the United States Championship. Moxley bowed to the crowd after the match, as the crowd gave him a great reaction. Really, really, really good match. And I must admit, as soon as they announced it, I kind of expected Moxley to go over.
Same.
But when Juice kicked out of Dirty Deeds, I was like, oh my God, Juice is like retaining. And then Moxley just hit like an elevated version of Dirty Deeds.
I loved that version of Dirty Deeds. It was almost like a vertical drop Dirty Deeds.
Yeah.
It was really cool. I thought it was a really good match. Like, really back and forth as well. And Moxley got a great reaction from the crowd as well. And I'm pleasantly impressed with how he managed to actually work within the Japanese style. And obviously he was in there with an American guy, but more like, working the New Japan style a little bit. And I was really impressed, and I think he'll be an important sort of little feature attraction for them moving forward.
I think it was an interesting blend of styles, because obviously, like you said, Juice is American as well, and there was definitely elements of the New Japan style in there, but with a mixture of Moxley sort of brawling
and the WWE
violent
elements of things.
And there was tables used and stuff like that. Not that that doesn't happen in Japan, because it does.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting match, and I thought probably Juice's best ever match, and one of Moxley's best ever singles matches, I think. I was that high on the match. I thought it was really, really good. And Juice has had a couple of really good matches, but I'd say this is probably his first great match. And I've not seen Moxley really have that many great singles matches.
Not in a long time.
Yeah. His trios matches with the Shield were always fantastic.
Yeah, and he just wasn't motivated for the longest time in WWE, and you could tell. And obviously from his podcast, you can hear why. And
he was motivated here.
He's talked about it, hasn't he? How rejuvenated and revitalized for the world of wrestling he feels, because he's never hated wrestling. He just grew to hate WWE.
And we've talked about a lot of good matches tonight. We've talked about Moxley versus Juice Just. We've talked about Tanner versus Jay. We've talked about all the matches from TakeOver. But what I've got next tops the lot. It's the Best of Super Juniors final, the main event of the Best of Super Juniors show, which pitted Shingo Takagi, the undefeated Shingo Takagi,
against one of the best wrestlers in the world, Will Ospreay.
So the crowd was really hot for this one before they even started. They worked a ridiculously high-paced opening sequence that led to a stalemate. Ospreay ran wild for a while, but when things broke down on the floor, Shingo hit a DDT to take control. Shingo followed up with an utterly insane tope con hilo that could have ended very badly, but thankfully just looked murderous without actually being murder. Takagi took control, and when Ospreay tried to fight back, he was caught with a pop-up Death Valley driver. This allowed Takagi to maintain control. They exchanged strikes until Ospreay hit a handspring enziguri as both men went down. Ospreay got the upper hand when they recovered and hit a top rope RM4 on Shingo. He followed with a corner dropkick and then the running shooting star for 2. Ospreay follows with the Sasuke special. They exchange strikes, but Shingo gets the best of it and lariats Ospreay so hard that his chest became concave. Ospreay tries to kick Takagi, but he catches it and flips Ospreay for about 6 rotations before he crashes down. He follows that with the sliding lariat for 2. Ospreay counters Noshigami into the Sunset Flip pinfall for 2. Ospreay goes for the Stormbreaker, which is countered, and then a suplex, which Shingo counters into a suplex of his own, but Ospreay turns that into Stundog Millionaire as both men go down. Ospreay hits the bicycle Yakuza kick and follows with Cheeky Nando's. He then looks for a top rope Stormbreaker, but Shingo fights out. They exchange slaps, and then Shingo headbutts Ospreay off the top rope of the apron. He pulls him up by the hair, but eats an enziguri. Ospreay looks for a springboard Hurricane Rana, but Shingo grabs hold of him and hits a top rope Death Valley driver for 2. They exchange lariats, and then Shingo counters a handspring into a burning hammer, but Ospreay lands on his feet. He hits a kick and goes for the Oz Cutter, but Shingo counters into the Noshigami, but he can't cover. He looks for the pumping bomber, but Ospreay floats all the way through and hits a huge Liger bomb for 2. Ospreay misses the Robinson special and hits a brutal wheelbarrow German into the turnbuckle pad. Shingo looks for Noshigami on the apron, but Ospreay fights out, hits the hook kick, and then the Oz Cutter on the apron. Ospreay gets back in the ring at 17, and Shingo just beats the count at 19. Ospreay catches him immediately, like he's still sliding into the ring, with the springboard missile dropkick for 2. Shingo makes it back to his feet, but he's hunched over, so Ospreay comes flying off the top rope with, and I'm not making this up, a 630 shooting star press. Yeah, that doesn't even make sense. but Will Ospreay is a ridiculous human being.
Lots of backflips.
Yeah. He follows up with a regular shooting star for 2. He then hits the Robinson special and the Oscutter, but Shingo kicks out. Ospreay goes for the Stormbreaker, but Takagi blocks. He swats at Ospreay, who kicks him repeatedly in the chest and talks trash. Shingo cashes one of the kicks and lands a headbutt on Ospreay. They exchange strikes until Shingo destroys him with forearms, but Ospreay catches him with a hook kick and then goes for the Stormbreaker, but Shingo catches him with a slightly less elevated than usual, very head-droppy version of Last of the Dragon. But Ospreay now kicks out the 2. Takagi hits a pumping bomber and then a huge running version of the pumping bomber that murders Ospreay, and somehow Ospreay kicks out again. Shingo goes for Last of the Dragon again, but Ospreay counters with a spike poison Rana. Shingo hits multiple lariats to Ospreay's chest, but then eats a roundhouse. Shingo replies with a lariat, but when he goes for the pumping bomber, he gets caught with a Spanish fly for an amazing near fall. Ospreay hits the hook kick, the hidden blade, and then a top rope Oscutter, and finally Stormbreaker for the win in one of the best matches you will see all year. Just pure brilliance. Shingo Takagi is phenomenal. Ospreay is absolutely unreal and one of the best workers on the planet. I would have put Shingo over personally because I think he needed this more than Ospreay did. But at the end of this match, I didn't really care who won. It was so good, I was just like, I just wanted to stand up and applaud.
And if Ospreay is going to win the title against Dragon Lee,
which he won't,
and then work towards maybe a rematch with Shingo.
Dragon Lee versus Hiromu is definitely what they're building to do.
King of Pro Wrestling now, though, right?
I don't know. I don't know when they'll do it. I assume Hiromu's return to Dominion after Dragon Lee returns against Ospreay. That would be my assumption.
Possibly.
And then they'll work to Hiromu, Dragon Lee. I can't see it being anything else with Hiromu's return. There'll be a redemption angle. Dragon Lee's the guy who injured him. There's so much there. I can't see them not going with it. Unless they're going to run sort of Ospreay with the title and have Hiromu and Dragon Lee just have a blood feud, not over the title. If that's the case, why did they put the title on Dragon Lee?
Yeah, it would make much sense.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen this match, so I'm going to have to watch it tomorrow.
No, go out of your way. It is unreal.
I've seen a lot of the matches from Best of Super Juniors, but I haven't had a chance to watch this one yet. From your description and from what I've heard from everybody else, like, it's just out of this world. And I don't want to talk too much about it because I haven't seen it, so I can't really give any opinions. But what I will say is that if it is as good as advertised, like, we can genuinely say, like, Will Ospreay is probably in the top 5 wrestlers in the world right now.
Yeah, it's certainly on terms of this year.
Current
in terms
form.
of this year, I'd say he's probably top 2. It's him and Johnny, isn't it? Johnny Gargano.
Him and Gargano, yeah. And possibly Adam Cole.
Yeah.
Cole's got to be high. Like,
he's got to be higher, but he hasn't had a plethora of great matches. He's had a couple of really, really good ones with Gargano and a couple of other good ones.
Agreed.
Whereas Gargano's had a litany of amazing matches this year, and so has Will Ospreay. Like, even Okada, who I think we both agree is the best wrestler in the world,
has not had as many good matches.
He's not had as many good matches as Ospreay and Gargano this year.
I'd agree.
But just absolutely phenomenal show, absolutely phenomenal main event. Post-match, Ospreay gives a shout-out to Hiromu and then announces he is moving to Japan and says he wants to fight both juniors and heavyweights, so we'll see where he goes with that.
That's interesting, because that's very not traditional, and I'm not sure I like that.
And we will obviously be covering our usual stuff later in the week when we do our normal podcast, so Raw, SmackDown, NXT and 205 Live will all be covered then. But for today, we will just move on to any other business. So we've got some updated cards for you guys with ROH's Best in the World and Impact Slammiversary on the horizon. We will discuss the Dominion card, which was released earlier today, later on in the week when we do our predictions in the final segment of the next podcast. So we will talk about that card in full then when we analyse who we think we will win. But we've had 3 matches added to the Best in the World card with Dalton Castle versus Dragon Lee, Roosh versus Flip Gordon, and Nick Aldis and Cole Cabana versus the Briscoes all added. Doesn't look like a massively stellar card so far, I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of good people on the card, but they tend to be in matches with people I'm not overly fond of.
Yeah.
So there's nothing screaming out to me that you have to go out your way to buy the show, put it that way. As for Slammiversary, Michael Elgin challenging Brian Cage for the world title and former champ Johnny Impact challenging Rich Swann for the X Division title have both been confirmed. Nothing else for that show as of yet, though, so we'll see where the build to that.
They constantly show improvements, though, so let's see how they do.
I'm not loving Michael Elgin in the world title picture, I will say, but I've never been a Michael Elgin fan.
I just don't like him. I don't like him as a wrestler. I don't like him as a person either.
So Yeah. And there was an interesting one, and I don't want to go into too much detail on this, but I've put it in any of the business rather than the news because I thought it was worth talking about. So Jericho was interviewed by ESPN the other day, and one line that really stood out to me in the interview was he said that since Moxley did the episode of Talk is Jericho, or since it was released, he's had multiple people from WWE contact him to say, I can't wait to do my version in X number of months.
No way.
Yeah. Now, obviously, Jericho could be embellishing.
He tends not like he
know,
doesn't. He
Jericho-
doesn't not that much.
Jericho does like to big himself up a bit.
Yeah, but he
This is
wouldn't.
not
He
necessarily
doesn't.
bigging himself
He doesn't
up.
just outright lie. Like he may embellish the truth. It may be like a couple of people have said this, and the couple of people are like what Sasha, and I don't know who
The
else.
Revival.
Yeah, like that would make sense. And he's maybe like loads of people, but like he wouldn't just go, oh yeah, people have been wanting to do the same thing, and it's nobody.
Yeah, it was an interesting line, so I think it's something we need to keep an eye on.
The revivals would be amazing. Sasha's too, because like Core have they ruined her. Like Sasha was and still probably is to this day my favourite female wrestler, and they've just ruined her. And the Revival are my favourite tag team since the Hardys.
I'd say they're my favourite tag team since Red Dragon, because I love Red Dragon.
See, I like the Hardys as a kid were my favourite.
How was an ANC guy?
And the Hardys were like the baby faces.
Yeah.
And ironically now my favourite tag team are the heelest of heels.
Baby faces in my eyes.
Smark, right?
So with that, we will move on to our final segment, and it's one that I told you in advance I was going to be very salty about. So we obviously did our predictions for Takeover on the last podcast, and it aired, and actually we both had quite a few wrong, didn't we? Because we basically
did actually, yes.
said it was a very predictable show,
and it wasn't.
We both said that Johnny Gargano would go over, and Adam Cole went over, and we both said Shayna Baszler would go over, and Io Shirai went over. Sorry, the other way around on that one.
I was like, what? She did?
But we both said Io Shirai would go over, and Shayna Baszler went over.
It's late in the UK, guys.
It is. And we both said that the Forgotten Sons would win the tag team title match, and the Street Profits won. But the one that we both got right was having Matt Riddle go over, and then the difference maker was Velveteen Dream versus Tyler Breeze, where I had been duped into picking Tyler Breeze.
I said we could leave it if you wanted.
Whatever.
You chose to say Tyler Breeze.
I was duped because he is very, very competitive. And he does not like losing, so...
Oh, yes, because you're very much...
basically forced me into picking Tyler Breeze because he said it would be boring if we picked the same answers and there was no point in doing it. So all the blame's on him, but he's 8-5 up, so whatever, that's it. Thanks for listening.
Literally.
No, that's it, end of the show.
Adam has just switched round exactly what happened.
You
were the one that said, well, if we both got the same, we won't do it because it's boring.
I don't recall this.
Oh, you should be a politician.
I didn't see.
I can neither confirm nor deny this.
I didn't see.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Didn't happen. False. Fake news. Fake news.
All right, Donald. It
that's an insult too far, mate. Right. With that, unless there's anything else you would like to add, I think it's time to wrap up the pod.
Just happy being,
Yeah, shut up. We're out of time. We'll see you on Friday on the Two Man Booth.